try to overturn an election. Do you really think a single Republican, or any politician for that matter, would back Trump? Here is where I will defend the situation. Before you call me a monster and an animal for defending the situation, I will say this. The cop was following the procedure.
Never said I oppose fracking. Show the tape. Put it on your website. Put it on the website.
Live from Clark Studios in Rochester, New York. Broadcasting around the world. You're listening to You Made It Political, where the voice of the keyboard warrior is finally heard and the arguments presented are put to the political test. And now, here's your host, Matt Clark.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to You Made It Political. We are broadcasting live from Clark Studios to around the world. You know, Black Lives Matter. I've really been trying to be patient with these guys. I tried to give the black community the benefit of the doubt. I tried to understand them. I tried to listen to them. I even have personal calls with followers of mine that I've really enjoyed, and I learn a lot from these people. But what just annoys the absolute shit out of me is when we constantly see the Black Lives Matter organization get up in the face of normal bystanders in the streets, people who are at restaurants trying to enjoy a meal, and it goes on and on and on. They won't shut up about what they are constantly pissed off about. We know what they're mad about. We know we need police reform. We get it. We've seen it. White cops, shootings on black people. Proportionally, it might happen a lot more than other races shooting on certain individuals. Okay, we understand all this. And I'm trying to be compassionate about where they're coming from. I'm really trying to listen and understand what the problems are. The problem I have is that they will not stop getting up in the faces of innocent bystanders. And that's where I draw the line. Not everybody wants to hear about BLM all freaking day. All right? The problems are with the precincts. Not me, not my white friends, not my black friends. So why do we constantly have to have Black Lives Matter thrown in our faces? Well, in Louisville yesterday, Black Lives Matter had a protest. They were marching through the streets of Louisville. The police told them, keep it to the sidewalks. Black Lives Matter decided to abandon that instruction. And they once again started getting up in the faces of those trying to enjoy a nice, relaxing meal at a restaurant. We've seen it time and time again. You've seen cities. Black Lives Matter wants to protest. Then they start screaming in the faces of people at the restaurants. They start flipping over tables. And I'm thinking, what the hell are you guys doing? Get the hell out of here. Like, we don't care. We're trying to eat. It's like me constantly. It would be like this. It would be like me constantly going around at restaurants and be like, vote red, you better vote red. And then I start flipping over tables and getting up in the faces of everybody. They're like, dude, what are you doing? Are you like freaking insane? Why are you putting this shit on me while I'm trying to eat dinner? It's the same thing. There's a time and a place for Black Lives Matter to protest. They're constantly taking it too far. So yesterday in Louisville, a man had enough. He's trying to enjoy a meal with his family at a nice restaurant. Black Lives Matter starts getting up in their faces. He stands up and pulls a gun on them. And I applaud that. Because you know what? America needs to start fighting back. We need to put an end to this nonsense. And if law enforcement isn't going to do it, well, guess who's going to? Proud Boys, absolutely. I won't be surprised if we start seeing them back on the scene soon. But innocent bystanders, civilians, have had enough. And they're now fighting back. And we're going to see this more and more. So my message to the Black Lives Matter organization is this. Cut the shit or somebody's going to get hurt. Let's get into the show and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about here in Louisville, Kentucky. So yesterday, Fox News report that images showed a Louisville restaurant patron pointing a handgun at an armed Black Lives Matter protest. Armed. So these protests are now armed. Okay? So much for peaceful. We have armed protesters now railing through the streets, getting up in the faces of innocent restaurant patrons trying to eat a meal. So there's an armed Black Lives Matter protest who swarmed the outdoor dining patio during demonstrations in honor of Breonna Taylor. Like, we get it. Breonna Taylor's, first of all, Breonna Taylor is like, I don't know, how many shootings ago? We know what happened. Okay? Breonna Taylor's boyfriend shot at the cops shot back. Breonna Taylor was caught in the crossfire. That's it, guys. There's nothing else to discuss. Sorry, go home. Like, stop. There's nothing else to discuss. I don't care if it was a white cop who accidentally shot her. I honestly don't give a shit at this point. Okay? And because Black Lives Matter is pushing everybody to breaking point right now, it's starting to be counterproductive. Nobody cares anymore. The more that I see Black Lives Matter do stuff like this, get up in these people's faces, the more I'm starting to say the hell with this organization. I don't care what their original intent was. It's gone too far now. And it's made me and so many other people in America just hate these people. Not black people, the organization. Let's be very clear here where our frustrations lie. And it does not make me racist. Okay? The fact that I think Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization, a bunch of thugs who constantly get up in the face of white people, threaten them, bully them, use bully boy tactics, does not make me racist. It just means I think the organization is a piece of shit. I really do. It's to that point. And I think so many other people have gotten to that point now, including this man here. So this guy had enough. There's armed protesters. These are not protesters anymore. You come to a protest armed, ready to shoot. You are not a protester. You are a gangster. You are a thug. That's what you are. You're nothing more. I don't care how you spin it. I don't care how CNN spins it. You're a thug. No different than the criminals who resisted arrest, who were shot. And I'm going to keep saying that. CNN can spin it all they want. I'm going to come out fighting and say, no, this is bullshit. This is why this criminal was detained or arrested. He fled. He got shot. Accidents also happen. It's not breaking news. Sadly, when guns are involved, accidents will happen. If you don't put yourself in these situations in the first place, they'll happen a lot less. It's statistics. It's very simple to understand, people, which is why it blows my mind that America doesn't get it. So a diner in Louisville draws his handgun, and I'll show you a little bit of a close-up in just a second, draws his handgun as armed BLM protesters swarm the restaurant. Okay? So I'm sure he's not the first one that's wanted to do this. I'm sure he's not the first one that said, you know what? I'm going to freaking lose my mind here if you guys don't get the hell out of my face. This man was not part of a protest. He didn't get out of his chair from his patio dining room seat and go and get up in the face of the Black Lives Matter protest. No, it was the other way. If he did that, I can understand. He's wrong. 100% wrong. Then I'd say, you know what? They were at a peaceful protest. They were marching. They were singing Kumbaya and cheering for justice. Okay, leave them alone. Let them do their thing. But when you take your protest and you start getting up in these people's faces, expect retaliation. You can't just have them sit there and take it. Not everybody's going to do it. Okay? This is not a deep blue state, people. Try that shit in the rural areas. See what happens. It's going to get yourself killed. Because these people, they're not going to want to put up with it. You cannot get up in somebody's face, especially with a gun, and not expect some sort of retaliation. So that's what this gentleman did. He got up back in their face. Let's take a look at the article and break this down a little bit. So here we got this gentleman here. I'll just show you guys a quick picture. Here he is, a close-up. He's got his pistol there, and he's pointing it at him. And I'll play the video in just a second. He was very calm about it. Let's play the video here. So again, Black Lives Matter. They decide to abandon the instructions from the police, which said stay on the sidewalks. sidewalks. Stay on the sidewalks. Don't come into this area. Don't go into restaurants. Do your protest. That's fine. Well, they abandoned the instruction and they got up in this guy's face. So you guys can see there. You can see there that he stood up. He's got his pistol. Everybody's going freaking ape shit. I mean, look, then you got that lady there in the background saying, no, go, keep moving. At first, she's trying to detain this guy. See, this guy there, he wants to start something. So it gets very hostile. It could easily end up turning into a gunfight in 2 seconds. So again, the fact that you're bringing guns to a protest in the first place leads me to believe you never intended on being peaceful. You don't need guns at a peaceful protest. So they got in this guy's face. They were doing their thing. This guy had enough for whatever reason, felt like his life was in danger and ended up taking his gun out. So let's break this down a little bit and see why Black Lives Matter was wrong in the first place. So these images show a Louisville restaurant patron pointing a handgun at armed Black Lives Matter protesters. I bet if you read the same article on CNN, they will say nothing about the Black Lives Matter protesters being armed. Guarantee it. Guarantee they say nothing. So the Black Lives Matter protesters were armed. They swarmed the outdoor dining patio during demonstrations in honor of Breonna Taylor. What a great way to honor her, by swarming restaurants and getting up in the faces of everybody on the day of the Kentucky Derby. So there's already a lot of people out. They're trying to enjoy their meal, and they're going to have a fun day out while watching the Kentucky Derby. Louisville Metro Police on Saturday evening responded to a La Chasse, an upscale European restaurant located 1300 block of Bardstone Road, as protesters were marching northbound on the street. A restaurant employee told dispatchers that multiple armed protesters entered the restaurant property, which included outdoor dining space. So multiple armed protesters. Okay, I've never brought a gun to a protest. I don't know many people who have. I'm sure people have, actually. I just don't know about it. When I go to a protest, I don't plan on getting into a gunfight. Therefore, I would not take a gun in the first place, especially if we're trying to set an example that this is going to be peaceful. I know we're in America, and we need to defend ourselves more than ever. But personally, I just wouldn't do it. A reporter for the Louisville Courier-Journal tweeted several photos and videos of the incident. A man was seen pointing his pistol at several demonstrators during an altercation. Several protesters also appeared to be carrying firearms. Videos shared by the newspaper showed a female demonstrator directing others to move away down the block, and tensions at the restaurant appeared to dissipate. So I applaud everybody here. Okay, I applaud them that they did leave in the end. I think it's great. This lady here, as you can see, I'm not sure, I'll try to point her out here. She's right here. She's trying very hard to get everybody to stand back. To get everybody, she said she comes in, she yells, no, 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 keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. So good for her. Good for her for doing that. But you know what? That's probably the only part of the video that CNN's going to show. They're going to show this guy pointing a gun at black people. Then they're going to show her come to the black people's rescue and saying, move along, we're the peaceful ones. Come on, this is not what BLM's about. Well, it is, because what they're not going to probably show you is the part where they first started showing up armed, getting up in the faces of these people while they're just trying to sit there and eat dinner or lunch. So here he is, pointing the gun. I mean, let's be honest, it's no AK-47. It's no AR-15. It's a little hand pistol that I'm sure he has a permit to carry. But he made a statement, this guy. And I applaud him for it. Okay? I don't applaud violence, but I applaud him for standing up for himself. And for saying, get the hell out of here. You guys are not wanted in this restaurant area. Unless you're going to eat, shut the hell up and get out of here. Because I don't understand why it's acceptable now for any organization to now storm a restaurant full of patrons and then get up in their face and start screaming and advocating for their cause. I don't know any other organization who does that besides Antifa. They just burn shit down. So I'm not really quite sure why it's acceptable that this behavior is allowed, that it's actually condoned, or that it's not condemned. And it continues to happen all the time. I've seen it happen right here in Rochester, New York. I've seen it happen in other cities throughout America where they've gone in, flipped tables, screamed, get up in the faces of people. Listen, Black Lives Matter issue is not with people like me. It's with the precincts. It's with the police, right? If you're pissed off at the police, why are you taking this out on innocent white people in restaurants? What's that going to accomplish? What sense does that make? If your issue is with government, if it's with the law enforcement agencies, then go protest on the steps of the precinct. Go wave your freaking guns around cops. We'll see what happens. It's probably not going to end well. So why do you think it's going to end well with white people? Because at some point they're going to retaliate, push back, and God forbid they actually shoot somebody in the name of self-defense. So it's not helping anybody's cause. It's not doing anybody's favors. And Black Lives Matter, they're just looking stupid. They look dumb when they do this stuff. Absolutely ridiculous. So during the encounter, both patrons and protesters brandished firearms. The incident occurred after the arrests of southbound protesters in the area on the 1500 block of Bardstone Road. So I guess there were some arrests during this protest. So already, Black Lives Matter, they're protesting, arrests are made. So clearly, they're not having a peaceful protest. This incident then happens after those arrests. The arrests of that group were made after protesters repeatedly blocked the roadway despite officers giving multiple verbal requests for them to utilize the sidewalk. So they're acting like thugs. They're acting like hooligans. It's illegal. You go to jail for this shit. So the police already told the protesters before this encounter, you're blocking the roads, use the sidewalks, and if you don't, we're going to start arresting you. So what happened? They started arresting them. Well, they didn't like that. So then the situation escalated and they decided to take that out on a restaurant full of people trying to eat. Well, this guy says, I'm done. I've had enough. Back the hell up, and he draws his gun. Protesters marched outside of Churchill Downs ahead of the 170. So this was during the Kentucky Derby. People carried signs. We haven't forgotten Breonna. No justice, no peace. No justice, no Derby. Now, what the hell does the Kentucky Derby have to do with any of this? No justice, no Derby. See, this is why you guys are pissing me off beyond belief right now. It is not my problem. And it will never be my problem. Okay? Because I don't want to make it my problem. I have my own problems in life. Trust me. Okay, we all have our problems. Sure. They might not go back as far as our ancestors being slaves, but again, that's not really their problem now either. I mean, let's be honest. Okay, I know they're pissed off because of what happened hundreds of years ago. But at some point, we really do have to get on with our lives here. At some point, they're going to have to stop victimizing themselves. They're going to have to actually behave. That'd be a good start. They're going to have to change the way that they indoctrinate their children. They're going to have to change the way that they teach their children how to interact with law enforcement. Yes, I'm saying it. They are going to have to change. Okay? I don't have to change. These people sitting at the restaurant, they don't have to change. Okay? They work their ass off to build the life that they have. They don't owe you anything. I don't owe you anything. I don't need to freaking wave a flag. I don't need to put a sign in my yard. I just need to be nice to black people, which I am. I need to be fair. I need to treat them equally, just like I do Asians, India people, and every other freaking race on the planet. That's all I owe anybody. I owe them nothing more. Okay? Because I've worked my ass off my whole life to get to where I am. Nobody gave me anything. I come from a family of 9 children. You better believe there wasn't a lot of money to go around. I'm not self-entitled. White privilege doesn't really go far in my family. Okay? Yeah, we might be white, but trust me, guys, there was no privilege there. Okay? A family of 9, my dad worked his ass off, but that money didn't go too far individually for each of us. So I worked hard my whole life to get to where I am. I moved to Shanghai, China. I built and sold a business there. I then moved to London. I built and sold a business there. Nobody gave me a goddamn thing to get to either of those countries. I did everything off my own dime. When I graduated college, I moved to California, packed my car. I had $800 to my name. Drove across California, had no idea what the hell I was going to do with my life. Got there, shacked up with an aunt and uncle for a few weeks, got a job, got an apartment. One thing led to the next. It's called work ethic, people. You work your ass off to make something of yourself in life. So I have zero sympathy for these people right now that are running around town, shooting their mouths off when they can easily do what LeBron James did, not the tweet, but make something of himself. What Allen Iverson did. I mean, these people came from really rough areas. Look at all the NFL players around the world. They come from really rough cities, rough towns, single parents, food stamps, government housing. I mean, horrific conditions. And they had 2 choices. They can either get caught up in drugs, crime, or they can make something of themselves. And a lot of them did. So we're not focusing on the positive. We're focusing on the negative. But when I see things like this, no justice, no derby, I'm thinking, what the hell does the Kentucky Derby have to do with anything? So Black Lives Matter, Louisville, Black Market, Kentucky, Color of Change, and Ultraviolet commissioned a plane banner that flew over. So now they got a plane banner. They're flying planes with banners. Okay. That flew over Churchill Downs with the message, protect black woman, divest from police. What does any of this have to do with the Kentucky Derby? Nothing. Why? This is the wrong place for it. Okay. You want to cause change? Get your ass to Washington, D.C., get up in the face of the Biden administration who claims he loves you all so much, and force them to start putting money into black communities. I've said this a million times. You want to cause change? Go find your freaking leader who has a $5 million portfolio in real estate that she's racked up over the last couple years. And ask her why the hell she hasn't put any of the $90 million back into the black communities. Why she hasn't used any of that money to rebuild the cities that you guys destroyed last summer. Why do you continue to get up in our faces? Because we're going to fight back soon. I keep saying it. I try to speak my mind on Facebook without getting banned. And I don't want to sound like a white supremacist extremist, so I'm very careful with my wording. But you guys are pushing us to breaking point right now, where at some point, someone's going to retaliate, and it's going to end up going very wrong. And America doesn't need that right now. We're all trying to get on with our lives. We suggest Black Lives Matter does the same thing. So Louisville Metro Police Department, they shared a live stream on Facebook of their protest response. Videos showed protesters, because now, again, the police, they're arresting black people during a protest. Well, no, that's not exactly what happened. Okay, as we know, the police asked them multiple times, use the sidewalks, stay out of the road, stop blocking the goddamn road. Well, they didn't listen, so they got arrested. So the Louisville Metro Police then shared a live stream, which I'm sure you can find on Facebook, of their protest response. The video showed protesters surrounding and shouting profanities at officers making an arrest. So these protesters now don't like that the cops are arresting black people for violating the law. And the live video from the police department shows protesters surrounding and shouting profanities at officers making an arrest. At least one individual was seen waving a Black Lives Matter banner, so we know it's Black Lives Matter. A female voice narrating the video said officers were surrounded while making an arrest on a woman who refused to stand and walk on her own. At least 5 protest-related arrests were made Saturday. One woman even gave officers a short foot chase down the block after fleeing officers. Again, I mean, how stupid are you people? This is what keeps getting everybody killed. Resisting arrest, fleeing. What if you had some cop shooter? I'm not saying it would have been right. Not at all. But you're putting yourself in danger. So we've got a woman also fleeing the scene that put the cops on a foot chase. They tried to detain her. She fled the scene. They chased her down. A man was also charged with possession of a handgun by a convicted felon in first-degree endangerment of an officer. So now, there's people with guns, convicted felons who aren't supposed to have guns. You have women fleeing the police after being told, do not violate the law. She violated the law. She was detained. She then fled. So there's a lot of illegal activity going on here. And all of this led up to the man who decided to defend himself during the protest. He had enough. And he takes out his gun. And he just stands there and says, get out of here. You're making me nervous. You have guns. I have a gun. He draws his gun. He points it at the Black Lives Matter armed protesters. And very quickly, the scene gets de-escalated. So I'll be very curious to see how CNN paints that story out, because I think they're going to obviously make it look like the Louisville Police Department went rogue again for no reason during a peaceful protest, and then a white man decides to take out a gun and threaten their lives for no reason. That's the story CNN's going to paint. Clearly, we saw the real story. Let's head over to the Keyboard Warrior Cam and see what other Americans have to say about the fact that a diner in Louisville draws his handgun as armed BLM protesters swarm the restaurant. Richard says BLM, by definition, is a racist group, is not winning anybody over to the racist way of thinking when they pull crap like this. It's like they're trying to get shot so they have an excuse to riot again. How is this not a declared terrorist group? How? It's a great question. How the hell is this not a declared terrorist group? Yet Trump, I'm sure most of you have heard the news by now, it's official. Facebook has banned Trump permanently. And we'll get into that story in just a second. So this group can keep organizing these protests that end up turning violent all the time. They can call them peaceful all they want, but a lot of them end violent. People are showing up with armed weapons, and they're allowed to stay on Facebook. It makes no sense to me. Yet this terrorist group, who's screaming at everybody, getting up in my face for something I have nothing to do with, threatening me with guns, is allowed to keep conducting themselves in this manner. This is why I think America's an absolute joke right now. Liliana says he did the right thing, referring to the white man from Louisville who defended himself. Good for him. BLM are terrorists. Simply put and well said. Steve says BLM, they will be forgotten after a big standoff. Remember their names. I don't know any thugs personally, so I don't know any of their names. I do know they need to stop the violence or it will be the end of their 10 minutes of some people paying attention to them. It's true, guys. The standoff's going to end very poorly. If they really want to cause change, they need to change their strategy and their tactic. Yes, a white kid just told you that. I don't give a shit. Okay? And I'll tell you that over and over again. I don't care how much. I just don't care. what your previous struggles were. Because all I see is you attacking people all the time. Change your freaking tune, and maybe you'll start to get some respect out of me. Ben said this is exactly what the media and government had turned us into, just as they wanted. Pretty sad to see. The Democrats continue to divide. They continue to use BLM to divide this country even further. Tammy says, see what happens when you don't have police? It's a good thing the government hasn't taken away our guns yet. This guy did the right thing. So everybody's supporting this guy. Yvonne says 44 carjackings in 4 days here in Louisville. People shooting at cars passing by intersections. You wonder why they showed a gun. That's every day here in Louisville. Exactly. Why is the media covering the 44 carjackings in 4 days in Louisville? People shooting at cars passing by intersections. But they show this little guy with his like little teeny pistol. That's what the media wants to focus on. At least the left-wing media, because that's their narrative. That's the only thing they want to do. So I can't wait to see what CNN has to say about all this. I think it's going to be laughable the way that CNN kind of spins the story. I mean, they are such a propaganda piece of shit, that company is right now. I mean, seriously, I troll that social media site so hard and get these liberals going every single day because they're just full of it. The CNN's full of it. The viewers are full of it. It's ridiculous. Sharon Murray says, I'm reading the comments now on my own Facebook post. Guys, please comment. I'd love to see them. Sharon Murray said, not one gun at the January 6th protest. Not one gun. Absolutely. I was with Sharon at the January 6th protest at Washington, D.C. We had a great time. I played a video. If you guys go back to about January 8th on my face or on You Made It Political's wall, you'll see back around January 7th. I posted a video of how nice and peaceful the whole thing was. Yes, things went a little bit wrong because of a few extremists, but notice, even the people who stormed the Capitol, no guns involved, nothing. They broke a few windows. The only gun that was involved was the officer who shot Ashley Babbitt, who, by the way, the family is suing Capitol Police now for, and rightly so. We didn't hear a thing about that shooting. Nothing. The cop shot Ashley Babbitt. There was a million security guards around. Even if she got through that broken window to the next hall, it's not like she wasn't going to get tackled in 5 seconds by the 50 other guards on the other side of that door. Yet nobody wants to talk about that. So you're absolutely right, Sharon. Not a single gun at the January 6th protest. Except the one that purposely killed that girl. Exactly. Absolutely. Pino Dave said, how can hating BLM be racist when white America funds them and a white terrorist who successfully raises the money and bombed the Capitol in 1983? I believe her name is Susan Rosenbaum. Yes, that she was. And she was pardoned by Bill Clinton. And Susan now sits on the board of Black Lives Matter. Susan, who Pino Dave's referring to, attacked the Capitol in 1983, actually blew it up. She was part of a far-left radical terrorist group, blew up the Capitol building, was supposed to go to jail for life for committing terror on American soil against a government building. She was then pardoned by Bill Clinton, Democrat, released from prison, and she now sits on the board of Black Lives Matter. This is the kind of insanity that we are all dealing with. Sharon also said he's not going to be the last person, referring to this gentleman in Louisville. He's not going to be the last person to not take any more shit from these domestic terrorists. Absolutely right. It's now getting to that point. And this is how insane this whole thing is. These guys are allowed to run their mouths and cause violence on social media. But Trump's not. Facebook's oversight board, which is a freaking joke, oversight board, like it's truly an independent committee. Spare me the BS. Unbiased independent group that oversees Facebook's ban decisions. Zuckerberg, you did this, buddy. Okay, you can pawn this crap off on an oversight board all you want. You run the show. This goes against everything that you promised Facebook stood for. So Facebook's oversight board on Wednesday upheld former President Donald Trump's ban from Facebook and Instagram, but said it was not appropriate for Facebook to impose the indeterminate and standard less penalty of indefinite suspension. Jesus Christ, how do you say that? That's a little bit too complicated for even me. So anyway, the point is that Facebook stuck to their ban, and the oversight board upheld Trump's ban, but calls indefinite suspension not appropriate. So this is ridiculous to me. Facebook is basically saying that the board upholds the suspension, but not appropriate. I mean, which one is it? Okay. Regardless, I don't care who wants to play the blame game here. The fact of the matter is that this is disgusting. It's just Antifa has organization groups on Facebook, on Twitter. They literally organize violence and coordinate mass gatherings to burn cities down. They do this on social media, and they're still allowed. Yet Donald Trump is now banned for life because they assumed he incited violence. Assumed. And Black Lives Matter is going around literally conducting violence. Like they are violent all the time. Antifa is violent all the time. So now you've got Trump and the oversight board, or Trump banned the oversight board, which I think is a joke. My comment was Zuckerberg can pawn this decision off all he wants to his fake oversight board, but he's still a penis for enforcing it. What a little shit for going against everything Facebook was supposed to stand for. I mean, that is the term I have for Zuckerberg right now. I mean, I can't think of a better term than the term penis for somebody like Zuckerberg at this instance. This was a cop-out for Mark. Mark didn't have to do this. If Mark really wanted to take a stand and prove to the American people that he's on our side, not the radical left, he would have told his stupid little fake oversight board, I don't need you guys to deal with this case. Trump's going back on. Okay? Yes, we assumed he incited violence. There's no real proof of it. We can't take his words, or we can't put words in his mouth. That's not fair. That's not how our legal system works, which is why the impeachment was a joke. And it's really not even close to what other violent posts are going on Facebook right now. I mean, there's a million worse posts on Facebook at this time. So Zuckerberg could have easily overturned this decision, but he didn't, because it doesn't fit the narrative. The Democrats have hijacked social media and big tech, and they're telling them exactly what to do. And I know why they're doing it. Okay? People, it's not because it's Facebook's platform, Facebook's rules. No. That is the most hypocritical thing I've ever heard out of anybody, because they're allowing others to incite violence on Facebook every day. There's hate speech conducted every single day on Facebook. It's the fact that they're only doing it on one side. They didn't do it for Maxine Waters. They didn't do it for Cuomo when he said protests need to be peaceful. They didn't ban Chris Cuomo. They didn't ban LeBron James when he posted on Twitter. Okay, they all seem to side each other in banning conservatives and Republican voices only. So it's very hypocritical. And to be honest, I don't really care that Trump's off Facebook permanently anymore. Trump doesn't give a shit either. What concerns me is that most of you, well, not my viewers, because I know most of you are just as disgusted as me, is that the liberal left are okay with this. That's the real concern that I have. That's what concerns me about America today, is how hypocritical this entire situation is. It's complete hypocrisy, and that's exactly what I said on my wall this morning. I said, I can honestly care less about Facebook's permanent ban on Trump. It's all of you applauding it that are the real concerned. That is the real concern. Because we know any liberal left-wing Democrat that pulls this shit on social media, they'll get a free pass. And we've seen it time and time again. Look at Maxine Waters. There was also some other nut job who threatened Trumpers. I forgot what her name was. It was disgusting. Threatened Trumpers and said, be very careful, and was basically trying to get the army to go and take out Trumpers. We all saw the video. And she wasn't expelled. She wasn't removed. She wasn't even removed from her committee duties, even though Republicans called for it. But Marjorie Taylor Greene gets removed from committee duties because she supported and applauded Trump for holding a rally to speak out against potential election fraud. This is what Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene get banned for or get stripped of her committees for. The whole thing is an absolute hypocritical disaster. So in one of my comments on the post earlier, I'm going to try to pull it up because I want to read this to you guys real quick. I said, the fact that Antifa is still allowed to organize violence on a daily basis on several platforms just goes to show how hypocritical this entire thing is and what a joke America is right now. It is an absolute joke. And tens of millions of people agree with me on this. Tens of millions, including all these people. Cheryl wrote, what about freedom of speech? We as Americans should be concerned with this. That one entity can control our voice is not freedom of speech. And again, fine, Mark, I'll play by your stupid my platform, my rules BS. But you lost that argument when you let the left continue to incite violence and run their mouth and literally threaten people's lives like LeBron James did. So I have zero respect for your platform or your rules. And I think that's what half of America feels right now. That is why we're so pissed off. Sure, you can do whatever you want. It's your platform, your rules. I just have zero respect for you. And I think you're a freaking idiot for pawning this off on a different department. And I think you don't stand for what you say you stand for. You're exactly the opposite. You're acting like a communist just like our government is because of the decision that you allowed to happen. Terry wrote a really good comment here. None of it is appropriate. Every day I see hate spewed out over and over by hundreds of Facebook users who remain uncensored. Of course, they most often are people whose opinions line up with that if the current administration, the Democratic Party, the Squad, and domestic terrorist groups, along with the cancel and woke culture. So yeah, these people are never removed. They most often are people whose opinions line up with that if the current administration, the Democrat Party, the Squad, and domestic terrorist groups, along with the cancel and woke cultures. It's obvious to me free speech is no longer responsible for all citizens. So, Tony, you're right. Tony said, where is our freedom of speech? Absolutely. What I want to know is where is the conservatives' freedom of speech? We're definitely getting a load of Democratic freedom of speech these days. I mean, we get earfuls of it on a daily basis. As soon as conservatives want to fight back, I mean, I can't fight back anymore on Facebook without being thrown in Facebook jail. Somebody can attack me on CNN. If I attack them back, which I don't anymore because I know I'm just going to end up in Facebook jail, and then I'm really going to be silenced. And I would encourage all of you to think twice if you're really trying to get your message out there, because being silenced on these social media platforms does none of us any favors. Sure, we can boycott them, but then I don't get to do my show anymore. If I boycotted Facebook, I'd lose all my audience overnight. This is how I fight. So I have to be very careful that I don't get taken off Facebook. Because if I do, then I'm silenced. Then I don't get to cause change. I don't get to influence. And that sucks. That the rules are very one-sided for conservatives, but Democrats have carte blanche to act as disgusting and violent and hypocritical as they want, from both the government level to big tech owners all the way down to normal civilians. And it continues to go on and on. And I don't see any signs of it slowing down because the Republican Party are weak. They don't stand up to any of this. And if they try to, they too get shut down. If Ted Cruz started running his mouth, he'd probably get shut down. Ron Williams said, have you noticed the Antifa website points to the White House? What are your thoughts about this? I actually highlighted that months ago. It used to point to, Antifa used to point to Biden's campaign website when he was running for president. It now points to the White House. I'll tell you my honest thoughts about this is that, unfortunately, anybody can actually point a website to another website. I can point my website to the White House website. It's a forward at the end of the day, or I just change what's called DNS settings to point to the White House. So do I honestly think the White House has anything to do with it? I don't think so. I think they're desperately trying to figure out how to shut that down or to stop it. But personally, I don't think it was intentional by the White House. Rusty says all the violence and all of the threatening rhetoric from Democratic leaders and not one single ban on that side of Facebook. All you need to know. It's true. That is the deal. And I'm afraid it's going to continue. Yes, I did see that Trump finally came out with his communications platform. I think it's great. There's not really much to do with it. To me, it's nothing more than a glorified website where Trump now gets to speak freely, and I love that. People will take his messages and they will then relay that over to Facebook. There's no way to engage with posts. There's no way to reply to posts. So if that's Trump's version of a social media platform, I'm afraid it's not going to really be effective. If Trump just wants a communications platform to run his mouth on a daily basis, great. I applaud that. And listen, let's not forget, we all have our own websites. That's where we're all able to communicate without big tech silencing them. No one is ever going to be able to take youmadeitpolitical.com down. Even if I got removed from Facebook, Twitter, and every other platform, nobody can take my website down. So don't forget that as we continue to fight for freedom. Guys, have a great day.
Thanks for listening to You Made It Political with Matt Clark. Be sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the show, or leave us a review on iTunes. And if you like our show or want to know more, check out youmadeitpolitical.com.